Greetings. Let's talk about another paper clock. This one is by James Smith Rudolph.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, dear. This one's by James Smith Rudolph. It is a paper clock I started about 3 years ago, and I didn't have any success with it. And I think it's mostly due to a lack of precision, because I didn't put as much precision into building this one as I did the Rebit clock that's running downstairs, and running wonderfully, by the way. So I thought I'd take another crack at this one, and I put it all back together and straightened out all the mess-ups that I could find. And boy, did this clock have a lot of problems. Oh my goodness. So I just wanted to go over a few of them and how I tackled them before I forget. So a big one is the axles had to be perfectly aligned, and that's just nearly impossible with paper and cutting it out and all that. So what I ended up doing was I got them close, and I figured out exactly where they needed to be by widening the holes and moving them around. I ended up taking a paper hole punch. Let me see if I can find a paper hole punch. Bingo. Paper hole punch. And I punched out a bunch of dots from some cardboard stock, and I poked a hole in the middle with a push pin on each one, put some glue on the paper, and stuck it right over the hole, where the hole should be. I did that to every gear and to every part of the case where an axle crosses through it, front and back. And I glued those, put a lot of glue so it got real good and hard. And that reinforced all of the points where the axles cross through the gears and the case. That was the first big thing I did to fixed a lot of problems. But the next time I tried to run it, I found many more. We'll start with the main gear. I had two big problems with that one. First, the winding shaft. There's a little slip of paper that catches on a tab inside this cylinder with the string wound around it. I had that paper put in the wrong way, so it would wind the wrong way, and it would just totally let it slip on the way that it's supposed to go. Not good. So I had to take that whole cylinder apart, reverse the paper, strengthen it, put it all back together. Now it winds the correct way. The next problem I had was with these teeth on the main gear. There's little dots on the gear, a little dotted line where you're supposed to glue each tooth to the sides of the gear. And I was not very precise when I put that on. I guess I was in a hurry, wanted to do it all in one sitting. And so a lot of these teeth are cockeyed, they're short, they're long, they're fat, they're skinny. The teeth were just totally in disarray. So I put several coats of lacquer on them to strengthen them, for one thing, and I took my Dremel and polished each one in between every tooth to make sure the gap and the width of each tooth was as close as I could get it to matching all the way around. Another problem was the teeth were not perfectly straight. Some of them were skewed. Again, that's totally my error. I should have been more patient when I was putting the teeth on. These main gear teeth matter a lot. So make sure you follow those dotted lines perfectly. When you're putting this gear together, make sure every tooth is the exact same length and width of spacing and width of tooth itself. When you cut them out, make sure, maybe use some kind of stencil to make sure every single tooth is the exact same width. So that was the problems with the main gear, and there were many. When I tried to run this a few days ago, another problem I noticed was where the main gear meets up with the pinion above it. Every once in a while, probably because my teeth some of them were short, it would slip and it would and unwind real fast. That ruined the pinion, and it was hard on the main gear. That one was a bit trickier to figure out how to fix that, because the pinion is like a star shaped, an 8-pointed star. Like if you can imagine an accordion but wrapped around, an 8-pointed star, that's what it is. So what I did to fix that one, there it is, you can see it right there in the middle. What I did to fix that one was I cut little strips of paper and scored it down the middle longwise and folded it in half. I did 8 of those, and I glued them over the existing teeth to strengthen them and lengthen them. That way the main gear cannot slip underneath its pinion. So I I embiggened the teeth, so to speak, by putting another layer of paper over each tooth. Consummate, V's. Consummate.
Are you making the clock, Daddy?
I'm trying. Okay, so that was 2 problems with the main gear. Was it was wound wrong, the ratchet was on there wrong, and then the teeth were just all over the place. The teeth were very British. Had to fix them. Like that. And then the main pinion here, back there, that one I had to make the teeth bigger by putting another layer over each tooth. Then the second gear here, this guy, his teeth were not cut out very well, so I lacquered them, and polished them, and made sure they were all very round on the edges. If they're not round enough, they tend to get stopped on that secondary pinion there. I didn't really have to do anything to the secondary pinion. It's pretty good the way it is. Then, the escape wheel here, that one, I had cut a couple of the teeth too short. Like you can see the black line cut out around each tooth, and then that one there, and the next one coming up were cut too short. I cut the black line off, and they would slip, and that's no good. They would slip and skip those teeth. So what I did was I took a small, imagine a square but more like a diamond, and scored it lengthwise on the long diagonal, folded it in half, and glued it over the teeth to make like a little pillowcase for it, to make the tooth just a little bit bigger. That way it will not slip. And of course, as usual, I lacquered the anchor. I lacquered the anchor several times and polished it so it's good and smooth. That way the teeth can slip over and off the anchor very easily. Boy, this clock has a lot of problems. The pendulum, I feel like the pendulum doesn't weigh enough, because if the escape wheel messes up even one time, the pendulum can stop dead, and that's not right. It should have enough momentum to keep going. That way it can dislodge the escape wheel properly. So I taped 4 pennies on the back of the pendulum. I don't know if that's too much weight or not enough. We'll find out. Let's see. I've got 12 ounces of pennies in the weight here. The book recommended 10 to 12 ounces. I put 12 ounces, the full 12, exactly. Other problems. Seems to be working pretty good now. I got to finish the face. Other problems with this clock. It's crooked. It's really crooked. So there's no adjustment on the anchor for this clock. None. It's just, it is where it is. So luckily it's all paper. And I'm just a little bit stronger than paper. So I'm going to try and bend the anchor arm till the clock can hang level and run right. I can't believe it's working. Let's get the face on it, see if it can actually work. I have no idea what kind of time it'll keep. I have no idea. We'll find out. One other thing I did, since I had let this sit in an attic under like a pile of junk for 3 years-ish, the case was warped, like just totally messed up. And whenever I put it together, it recommended using regular glue and rubber cement. And on many cases, I used the rubber cement because it dried faster and I don't get to use it very often, and it's kind of a fun material. But I noticed every single joint that I had glued with rubber cement had come apart within that 3 years of disuse. Every single one. So don't use, it says use rubber cement, don't do it. Don't use rubber cement. Use Elmer's glue on everything. And then once I got the case finally straightened out and square again, I Mod Podged the entire thing. Mod Podge is basically glue, but you can apply it over, like, when you finish a puzzle, you can Mod Podge your puzzle so that it won't come apart again. It's a clear glue. It's not as strong as lacquer, but it's something. So I Mod Podged the entire case so that it will be a bit more rigid and firm. Oh, what else have I done? Oh, this clock's taking a lot of work. It's definitely more challenging than the Rebit clock. But I think that's mostly due to the amount of time and precision that it takes to assemble everything. The original design for the clock does not respect the fact that you are using paper. So I suspected that strengthening the gear teeth and the gears with lacquer would help, and I was right. Definitely do that. I've used so many coats of lacquer that these gears are turning kind of brown, and that's okay with me, as long as it works. So that's update number 1 of James Rudolph paper clock. It's a pretty fun little deal, and I will make sure to shoot a video whenever it's finished to show you what it looks like. Still going. This might actually work.